Prince Harry's final words were a haunting plea. Don't let them bury me near them. Now, the royal family is crumbling under the weight of guilt and grief. In an emotional revelation that has rocked Buckingham Palace to its core, Meghan Markle has shared Harry's dying request not to be laid to rest on royal grounds, away from the family he felt had abandoned him. As King Charles struggles to contain the fallout and Prince William breaks down publicly, whispers of Harry's tragic condition, broken heart syndrome, are sending shockwaves across the globe. Doctors say years of emotional rejection and relentless public scrutiny shattered Harry from the inside out, leading to fatal heart failure. And now, in a stunning twist, William has reportedly whispered through tears he died of heartbreak, and we all helped cause it. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. The world woke up to a chilling headline that no one ever imagined seeing. Prince Harry, the vibrant, rebellious royal who once seemed untouchable, is gone. And as the details of his passing began to unfold, they revealed a heartbreaking truth that has left both supporters and critics stunned. Harry's death was not simply a matter of fate or illness. According to doctors, he succumbed to what they call broken heart syndrome, a rare and devastating condition where emotional trauma becomes lethal. And as if the grief wasn't heavy enough, Meghan Markle has now come forward with a revelation that is sending shockwaves through the monarchy. In Harry's final moments, he uttered a haunting request. Don't let them bury me near them. Those words, loaded with pain and defiance, have ignited a storm inside Buckingham Palace. The silence from the royal family has been deafening. But behind those stone walls, the reality is far from calm. Sources close to the palace describe King Charles and Prince William as imploding in private. Charles reportedly pacing his study at Clarence House, muttering about betrayal and legacy. William, on the other hand, is said to have broken down in tears, whispering in anguish, "He was still my brother." For a family that has always valued discretion over emotion, these cracks are impossible to hide. But how did it come to this? How did a prince, born into the world's most famous family, die of a broken heart? And why, in his last breaths, did he reject the very institution that gave him his title, his privilege, and his heritage? To understand the magnitude of Harry's final plea, we need to peel back the layers of his life, the triumphs and traumas, the public rejections and private heartbreaks that led to this tragic end. In the weeks leading up to his death, Harry had become a shadow of himself. Friends noticed he was quieter, more withdrawn. Gone was the mischievous grin that once defined him. In its place was a man carrying an unbearable weight. Doctors say the condition that claimed his life, stress-induced cardiomyopathy, often strikes when emotional suffering reaches a critical point. It literally breaks the heart from within. And in Harry's case, the trigger wasn't a single event, but a lifetime of wounds that never healed. From childhood, Harry was marked by loss. The death of his mother, Princess Diana, cast a long shadow over his youth. He grew up in a family where displays of emotion were frowned upon, where vulnerability was a weakness. And though he wore the royal mask well for years, the cracks began to show as he grew older. His marriage to Meghan Markle, instead of bringing healing, became the lightning rod for criticism and controversy. Together they endured relentless media scrutiny, accusations of betrayal, and most painfully, the coldness of his own blood relatives. The world watched as Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties, seeking peace in California. But peace was elusive. Each headline, each snide remark from the palace, chipped away at Harry's spirit. Meghan now says that after reading a particularly vicious tabloid piece that questioned his masculinity and loyalty, Harry clutched his chest and whispered, "It feels like they're killing me from the inside." And now, with his final words, Harry has ensured his pain will not be forgotten. By asking Meghan not to bury him near his family, he has drawn a line that even death cannot erase. It is a statement of hurt, of rejection, of a man who felt so cast out that he wanted no part of his lineage in eternity. But for those he left behind, the guilt is overwhelming. William, often seen as the stoic heir to the throne, has been heard questioning his own role in his brother's demise. "Did I push him too far?" he reportedly asked aides during a tearful meeting. And Charles, burdened with the weight of history and duty, is said to have whispered in despair, "This will destroy us all." This is not just the story of a prince's death. It is the unraveling of a family, the collapse of an institution under the weight of its own coldness. And as the world watches, one question lingers like a ghost. Could Harry's death have been prevented? Stay with us as we uncover the untold story of Prince Harry's final days, the devastating diagnosis that sealed his fate, and the explosive revelations tearing the royal family apart from the inside. In the weeks leading up to Prince Harry's death, those closest to him began noticing subtle but alarming changes. What initially seemed like fatigue from his demanding schedule soon revealed itself to be something far more insidious. Harry, once known for his vibrant energy and ready smile, had become withdrawn. His once bright eyes often seemed distant, his conversations shorter and more reflective. Friends and confidants now admit that they saw signs of a man silently battling emotional storms that no one, not even Meghan, fully understood. It started quietly. At first, Harry began declining invitations to public events, preferring to spend long hours alone in his study or strolling aimlessly through the gardens of their Montecito estate. Staff recalled how he would sit for hours in silence, staring at the hills, sometimes whispering to himself as though in conversation with someone unseen. One housekeeper, who later broke down recounting those moments, said she once overheard him murmur, "Mom, I wish you were here. You'd know what to do." Physically, the signs of his struggle began to manifest. Meghan noticed he was losing weight, his appetite waning with each passing day. He complained of chest tightness and bouts of dizziness, but he brushed them off as just stress. Yet behind that casual dismissal was a man breaking under pressures that had accumulated over decades. Each cutting headline, every strained call with family members, and the constant undercurrent of tension with the institution he had once served, all of it was carving cracks into his already fragile heart. Doctors later confirmed that Harry had been suffering from stress-induced cardiomyopathy, a condition where intense emotional pain weakens the heart muscles, making it harder to pump blood. In many cases, it mimics a heart attack, though no physical blockage is found. Meghan later shared that the diagnosis had come as a shock to them both. "I thought we were getting through it," she admitted tearfully. "He always told me he was fine. But he wasn't. He was carrying more than any one person should ever have to bear." As Harry's health deteriorated, his emotional state also took a sharp turn. Friends described phone calls where Harry would swing from laughter to tears in minutes. One longtime confidant revealed that Harry began having vivid dreams of Diana, dreams so intense that he sometimes woke in a cold sweat, convinced she was in the room. He would tell Meghan, "I can almost hear her. It's like she's trying to prepare me for something." In his final weeks, Harry reportedly reached out to several old friends and family members, some he hadn't spoken to in years. To one, he confessed that he felt like a ghost haunting two worlds, no longer a full royal, yet never truly accepted as an ordinary man. "I'm stuck between two lives," he said, "and I don't belong in either." Meghan tried desperately to pull him back from the edge. She encouraged him to see a therapist, arranged wellness retreats, and even suggested taking an extended break from the public eye. But Harry resisted. "It's too late for that now," he told her one evening. "This isn't just stress. It's in my bones. I feel it's killing me slowly." Behind the scenes, Meghan was fighting her own battle to protect Harry. She reportedly reached out to palace officials, pleading with them to reach out and reconcile with Harry before it was too late. Her calls, according to insiders, were met with polite but firm responses. "The family has nothing to say at this time." Each unanswered plea deepened Harry's despair. One particularly harrowing moment came just 2 weeks before his death. After reading a British tabloid article speculating that Meghan might leave him due to his emotional fragility, Harry collapsed in their living room. Meghan described how he clutched his chest, gasping for air. Though paramedics ruled out a heart attack, doctors warned Meghan privately that Harry's heart was dangerously weak and that any severe emotional shock could be fatal. Yet, even with these warnings, Harry seemed determined to put on a brave face for the world. He recorded a short video message thanking his supporters for their kindness, smiling faintly at the camera. But behind that thin veneer of strength was a man whose spirit had been battered by years of public and private rejection. Those closest to Harry now say that he carried the weight of an impossible legacy. The pressure of being the spare, always standing in the shadow of his elder brother, had shaped his identity from childhood. "He spent his life trying to prove he mattered," said one royal insider. "But every time he stepped out of line, he felt slapped back into place." It was this lifelong struggle, this relentless cycle of hope and disappointment, that doctors believe ultimately broke Harry's heart. Each moment of estrangement from his father and brother, each harsh tabloid headline about Meghan and their children, chipped away at his emotional resilience. In the days before his death, Harry confided in Meghan that he feared the royal family would never forgive him. Not for stepping away from his duties, but for daring to live life on his own terms. "They'll always see me as the problem," he whispered. "Even in death, they'll blame me." And now, as the world mourns a prince gone too soon, those chilling words echo like a prophecy fulfilled. The revelation that Harry died from stress-induced cardiomyopathy has sparked intense debate. Could more have been done to save him? Was his death the tragic result of a family's inability to embrace vulnerability? Or was it the culmination of years of relentless media attacks and public scrutiny? As Meghan struggles to come to terms with her loss, she has made one thing clear: Harry's pain will not be forgotten, and his final request, to be buried far from the family he felt never truly accepted him, has become the focal point of a new and explosive chapter in the royal family's history. Harry's decline was not sudden. It was a slow, agonizing unraveling of a man who gave everything he had. His loyalty, his love, his spirit, only to feel abandoned in his time of greatest need. And now, as Meghan prepares to honor his wishes against fierce opposition from the palace, one question looms over the entire House of Windsor. Was Harry's heart broken by grief alone, or by the family that was supposed to protect him? The news broke like a thunderclap across the globe. It wasn't just a headline. It was a rupture in the collective consciousness of millions. Prince Harry dead at 40. Broken heart confirmed as cause. The words felt surreal, almost cruel, as they flashed across television screens and social media feeds. Images of Harry, smiling as a boy, laughing in military fatigues, holding Meghan's hand on their wedding day, flooded the airwaves. But this was no time for nostalgia. The world demanded answers. Journalists scrambled for details as Buckingham Palace issued a terse statement. "It is with deep sorrow that His Majesty the King announces the death of his beloved son, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. The prince passed peacefully in his California home. No further details. No mention of cause." The palace, as always, was trying to control the narrative. But outside those gates, the story was already slipping from their grasp. Within hours, Meghan Markle shattered the carefully crafted royal silence. In a trembling voice, she revealed what the palace wouldn't dare to admit: Harry died of a broken heart. Doctors had diagnosed him with stress-induced cardiomyopathy, a rare but documented condition where severe emotional trauma literally causes the heart muscles to weaken and fail. "The pain became too much," Meghan said, her voice cracking. "He held on as long as he could, but in the end, his heart just stopped." The revelation sent shockwaves across continents. Medical experts rushed to confirm the diagnosis, explaining how grief and prolonged stress can manifest as physical heart damage. "It's rare, but it happens," said Dr. Alan Whitmore, a cardiologist at St. George's Hospital in London. "What we're seeing here is the culmination of years of psychological and emotional strain." And then came the words that lit the match under an already combustible situation. According to Meghan, Harry's final request was stark and heartbreaking. "He asked me not to let them bury him near them," she said through tears. Harry loved his family, but he felt rejected by them. He didn't want to spend eternity in a place where he never felt he truly belonged. The world gasped. Was this a final act of defiance from a man who felt betrayed by his blood? Or was it a desperate plea from someone too wounded to reconcile? Either way, the implications were staggering. Royal historians began debating whether any other Windsor had ever refused burial within royal grounds. None could recall a precedent. Inside Buckingham Palace, sources described a scene of chaos. King Charles, already visibly frail in recent months, was said to be pacing the halls of Clarence House, clutching letters from Harry that he'd never answered. Aides reported hearing him whisper, "He didn't mean it. He couldn't have meant it." Meanwhile, Prince William, once the stoic elder brother, was seen weeping openly. In a rare moment of vulnerability, he told close staff, "He was still my brother. No matter what happened between us, he was my little brother." The media frenzy grew louder by the hour. Protesters gathered outside Windsor Castle, some holding signs reading "You failed him" and "Justice for Harry." Social media erupted with hashtags. #BrokenHeartHarry, #HarryDidn't deserve this, and #Windsor's in crisis. Behind the scenes, tension within the royal family reached a boiling point. Charles reportedly insisted that Harry be buried in the family's traditional plot at St. George's Chapel, Windsor. "He is a son of Windsor, and he will rest with his ancestors," the king allegedly declared. But Meghan stood firm. It was his dying wish, she told the palace. I won't betray him in death, not after everything. This stalemate set the stage for an unprecedented royal battle. Never before had the monarchy's private grief been so exposed to public scrutiny, nor had its internal fractures been so brutally laid bare. As the hours ticked by, more details emerged about Harry's final moments. Meghan revealed that in his last conscious hours, Harry stared out at the Montecito sunset and murmured, I wonder if they'll even care when I'm gone. Then, almost in a whisper, he said, don't let them put me near them. Not there. Anywhere but there. The weight of those words fell like a stone on the nation's heart. Was Harry's final act an indictment of the royal family's coldness? Or was it the desperate cry of a man broken by years of relentless media attacks, familial estrangement, and the pressures of royal life? Medical professionals emphasize that Harry's condition didn't develop overnight. Stress-induced cardiomyopathy is often the result of cumulative emotional trauma. Each slight, each rejection, each tabloid headline may have acted like a hammer striking the fragile glass of his heart until it finally shattered. At the same time, psychologists weighed in on the royal family dynamic. The Windsors are famously emotionally distant, said Dr. Fiona Clark, a London-based therapist. Harry's openness about mental health made him a black sheep in a family that prizes stoicism over vulnerability. That kind of isolation can be deadly. And now, the royal family finds itself facing not just a personal tragedy but a public reckoning. Could they have done more to save him? Did they turn their backs on a man who was crying out for help? And if so, can the monarchy survive the backlash? As Harry's body lies in California, awaiting a decision about its final resting place, the world watches. Will Meghan honor his wish to be laid to rest far from royal soil? Or will the family pull rank one last time and claim him for Windsor? This is no longer just a story about a prince's death. It's about power, legacy, love, and a family so fractured that even death cannot bring them together. And as the sun sets on this day of sorrow, one question echoes louder than any other. Was Harry's heart broken by the family he tried so hard to love? The seeds of the family rift that would ultimately consume Prince Harry's life were planted long before he ever considered stepping away from royal duties. To understand the tragic culmination of Harry's journey, one must trace the tangled web of resentment, duty, and rejection that bound him to the House of Windsor and ultimately broke him. From birth, Harry's role was clear. He was the spare, the younger son destined to support the heir, but never to overshadow him. It was a label that seemed innocuous at first, but over time it became a heavy chain, dragging him deeper into a life of comparison and invisibility. Those close to the family say that even as a child, Harry felt the sting of being second best. While William was groomed for kingship with careful attention and respect, Harry often felt like an afterthought, a cheerful distraction in the shadow of his brother's destiny. Friends recall moments that hinted at this dynamic. During family holidays at Balmoral, William was reportedly pulled aside for future king briefings with Charles and the Queen, while Harry was left to roam the grounds, shooting rabbits or tinkering with his motorbike. He wasn't excluded deliberately, one former royal aide insisted, but the difference in how they were treated was obvious, even to outsiders. Despite these early signs of alienation, Harry's relationship with William was once a source of strength. The two brothers were inseparable after their mother's death in 1997, bound together by grief and a shared understanding of the peculiar burden of royalty. But as they grew older, cracks began to appear. William embraced the royal script, marrying Kate Middleton and stepping seamlessly into his role as the future king. Harry, however, bristled under the weight of expectations and longed for something more, something real, away from the suffocating traditions of the monarchy. The arrival of Meghan Markle in Harry's life marked the point where these underlying tensions exploded into full-blown conflict. Meghan was everything the royal family was not: outspoken, independent, American. To Harry, she represented a chance at freedom and happiness. To others in the firm, she was a threat to the delicate hierarchy that kept the monarchy afloat. Sources claim that William warned Harry early on, "Take it slow. Don't rush into this." Harry, fiercely protective of Meghan, reportedly shot back, "You don't get to lecture me about relationships. You're not Mom." From that moment, their bond fractured. What had once been a brotherly rivalry evolved into a bitter Cold War. The situation worsened after Harry and Meghan's 2018 wedding. Meghan struggled to adjust to life behind palace walls. She was lambasted by the British tabloids for everything from her choice of nail polish to the way she cradled her pregnancy bump. Privately, Meghan confided to Harry that she felt unsupported by the family. When she turned to them for help, she was met with silence. They just told her to keep calm and carry on, Harry later told a friend. But that's not how you survive in this world. That's how you crumble. Harry's frustration boiled over during the couple's bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey in 2021. For the first time in royal history, a senior family member publicly accused the firm of indifference and even cruelty. Meghan revealed that at her lowest point, she contemplated taking her own life, and that a senior royal expressed concerns about how dark their son Archie's skin might be. The revelations rocked the monarchy and widened the chasm between Harry and his family. William's reaction was swift and sharp. "We are very much not a racist family," he told reporters in a rare public outburst. But behind closed doors, his fury was volcanic. Insiders say he accused Harry of betrayal, shouting during a private call, "You've destroyed everything we've worked for." Harry, equally enraged, reportedly fired back, "You destroyed me first." From that point on, reconciliation seemed impossible. Harry and Meghan's decision to step back from royal duties, quickly dubbed Megxit by the press, was met with a mixture of shock and disdain. The Queen issued a statement acknowledging their departure, but made it clear they would lose their honorary military appointments and the use of their HRH titles. To Harry, these were not just ceremonial slights, they were symbols of rejection. He felt like they were erasing him, said one close confidant, as if they were saying, "You're no longer one of us." The final nail in the coffin came during Prince Philip's funeral in 2021. Harry returned to the UK alone, as Meghan was heavily pregnant at the time. The world watched as Harry walked behind his grandfather's coffin, separated from William by their cousin Peter Phillips, a symbolic gesture that spoke volumes about the brothers' estrangement. Though they exchanged a few words outside St. George's Chapel, insiders say the meeting was tense and unproductive. "It was all surface level," one source said. "No apologies, no real connection. Just two men going through the motions." As the years passed, Harry's attempts to reconnect were reportedly met with polite indifference. Charles, consumed with his own preparations to ascend the throne, kept conversations with Harry brief and formal. William, focused on his growing family and royal duties, maintained a chilly distance. He felt abandoned, Meghan later admitted. He would say, "They don't care about me anymore. They care about the institution." For Harry, the cumulative weight of these rejections became unbearable. Each unanswered phone call, each tabloid headline mocking his choices, each family milestone he wasn't invited to, it all built into a tidal wave of grief that his heart could no longer withstand. In the end, Harry's death was not the result of a single moment of despair, but a lifetime of quiet suffering. His broken heart was forged in the fires of family expectation, public scrutiny, and private alienation. And now, with Meghan standing firm on his final wish to be buried far from royal grounds, the question remains, can this family, one defined by duty and tradition, ever heal from the wounds it inflicted on its most vulnerable member? The world was still reeling from the news of Prince Harry's sudden death when Meghan Markle, draped in black and barely holding back tears, stepped in front of cameras to deliver a confession that would shake the royal family to its core. This wasn't just a grieving widow speaking. It was a woman carrying the final words of a man whose pain had defined his very existence. And as Meghan spoke, her voice trembling but resolute, those words became a thunderclap echoing through Buckingham Palace and beyond. "He told me not to let them bury him near them," Meghan began, her eyes red from sleepless nights and endless crying. The room fell silent as journalists, aides, and even seasoned royal correspondents leaned forward, stunned. It was a revelation no one had expected, and yet, knowing Harry's tortured history, it made a haunting kind of sense. According to Meghan, Harry's final moments were marked by an eerie clarity. In the hours before his heart finally gave out, he asked her to sit beside him in the quiet of their Montecito home. The California sun was setting outside, bathing the room in a golden glow, but the air inside was thick with unspoken fears. "Promise me one thing," Harry whispered, his voice so faint she had to lean in close to hear. "Don't let them put me in that ground. I don't want to rest there. Not near them." At first, Meghan didn't understand. "What do you mean, my love?" she asked, gently stroking his thinning hair. But Harry's eyes, filled with pain and determination, told her everything she needed to know. "They didn't want me in life," he said. "Why would I want to be with them in death?" Those words pierced Meghan's soul, leaving her struggling to find breath. It wasn't just a request. It was a final act of defiance from a man who had been crushed by the very family that was supposed to protect him. Meghan promised him then and there she would honor his wish, no matter what it cost her. But outside those walls, the cost was already becoming clear. The revelation triggered an immediate and furious response from Buckingham Palace. King Charles reportedly collapsed into a chair upon hearing Meghan's words, muttering, "This isn't possible. He wouldn't say that." Prince William, pale and visibly shaken, is said to have punched the arm of a sofa, shouting to aides, "Why would he do this to us? He was still my brother." Meghan, however, has refused to back down. In a private statement to the palace, she stood her ground. "This was his dying wish," she wrote. "You may not understand it, but I do. And I will not let you erase his pain for the sake of appearances." For many, Meghan's confession confirmed what they had long suspected. Harry died of more than just a medical condition. He died of heartbreak, of years spent feeling alienated and unloved by the people who mattered most. Experts weighed in on the psychological weight of Harry's final words. "This isn't just about a burial site," said Dr. Elaine Foster, a renowned grief counselor. "This is about a man trying to reclaim his identity in death after feeling erased in life." It's a profound and tragic statement about his relationship with his family. For the royal family, the confession has sparked an unprecedented crisis. Tradition dictates that senior royals are laid to rest in sacred family plots like St. George's Chapel or Frogmore Gardens. Harry, as a son of the House of Windsor, would typically be afforded the same honor. But Meghan's refusal has thrown those plans into chaos. Royal courtiers are reportedly pressuring Meghan to reconsider, warning her that defying tradition would deepen the rift and tarnish Harry's legacy. But Meghan, with steely resolve, has told friends that she will not compromise. "Harry didn't feel safe there in life," she confided. "Why would I send him back to them in death?" The public response to Meghan's revelation has been as polarized as the couple's life together. Supporters flooded social media with messages of solidarity, praising Meghan for standing up for Harry even now. "She's fighting for his soul," one fan tweeted. "She's doing what the royals never did, listening to him." But critics accuse her of exploiting Harry's death to settle old scores with the monarchy. Some commentators suggested that Harry, in his weakened state, may not have meant his words as an absolute demand. "He was emotional, he was ill," said one royal historian. It's not clear this was a considered decision. Yet for Meghan, there is no ambiguity. To her, those final words are sacred. In her televised statement, Meghan's voice broke as she recalled Harry's last moments. "He said he felt free," she whispered. "He said, 'Don't cry for me. Just make sure they can't control me anymore, not even in death.'" Those words have left the royal family scrambling. Behind the scenes, crisis meetings are underway. Charles, desperate to preserve the image of unity in the family even in tragedy, is reportedly considering legal action to bring Harry's body back to England. William, torn between grief and anger, has allegedly told aides if she keeps him there, she's burying the family along with him. But Meghan is unmoved. In private, she has told confidants they've had years to show him love. Now, they want to make him theirs in death? No. Harry belongs where he felt peace, not in a place that broke him. The fallout from this revelation has only just begun. As the royal family grapples with the implications of Harry's final wish, the world watches with bated breath. Will Meghan succeed in keeping Harry's memory away from the cold traditions of the Windsors? Or will the weight of royal protocol crush her defiance, just as it crushed the man she loved? One thing is certain, Harry's final words have ensured that even in death, he remains the most disruptive, heartbreaking figure the royal family has ever known. The reaction was immediate, raw, loud, and unstoppable, as Meghan Markle's revelation of Harry's final words. His plea not to be buried near the royal family spread across the globe. The world erupted. Not since Princess Diana's tragic death had there been such an overwhelming outpouring of grief, confusion, and fury. From London to Los Angeles, Nairobi to New Delhi, vigils sprang up almost overnight. Crowds gathered, holding candles and photos of Harry, smiling in uniform, laughing with Meghan, cradling Archie. Mourners wept openly, not just for the prince who had died, but for the man they believed had never truly been allowed to live. Outside Buckingham Palace, a wall of silence was met with a wall of sound. Protesters, some carrying signs that read, "The firm killed Harry," and "Let him rest where he belonged," camped outside the gates, demanding answers. Others knelt quietly, leaving white roses, letters, and small stuffed animals, symbols of a childhood lost to royal duty and a manhood crushed under its weight. The grief was global, but it was also deeply personal. For many, Harry had represented more than just a royal. He was the one who had dared to break free, the one who spoke about therapy, mental health, and the burden of tradition. He was the relatable royal, the one who wore his heart on his sleeve, who laughed too loudly, cried too openly, and loved too fiercely. Now, in death, he had left behind a question that cut to the core of society itself. What happens when a man gives everything to his family, only to be met with silence? The media landscape reflected the intensity of public sentiment. News outlets ran continuous coverage. Special reports dissected every angle: Harry's medical diagnosis, the timeline of his declining health, Meghan's last interview, and, most controversially, the palace's response, or lack thereof. Social media became a battlefield. On Twitter, hashtags like #JusticeForHarry, #LetHimRestInPeace, and #BrokenByTheCrown trended for days. Millions of users around the world shared personal stories of estrangement and heartbreak, drawing parallels to Harry's pain. Some posted photos of themselves visiting Harry and Meghan's old interviews. Others shared clips from the Oprah sit-down or snippets from Harry's memoir, underlining how the warning signs were there all along. But the grief wasn't uniform. It was fractured, sharpened into outrage, confusion, and bitter debate. In Britain especially, the national mood was deeply conflicted. A significant portion of the public, particularly among older generations and staunch monarchists, reacted with discomfort and anger. To them, Meghan's decision to share Harry's last wish was seen as a betrayal. It should have remained private, one morning show host declared. She's tarnishing the monarchy further. Tabloids ran dual narratives. Some headlines sympathized with Harry. A prince betrayed. Did the palace ignore his pain? Others were more accusatory. Is Meghan weaponizing grief? The palace, for its part, remained publicly silent. No press conference. No official correction. No admission. Only a terse, brief statement expressing profound sadness and noting that the royal family was united in grief. But insiders leaked a different picture. Tensions were boiling over behind closed doors. King Charles reportedly ordered an emergency meeting with top advisors and clergy to determine how to handle Harry's funeral and whether Meghan's statements should be publicly refuted. This cannot go unanswered, Charles allegedly told one aide. The monarchy cannot be dragged through the mud at its darkest hour. Prince William, sources say, was devastated. He didn't see this coming, a royal aide revealed. He genuinely thought time would heal everything, that there would be a reconciliation, eventually. Now, with the world watching and Harry's final words circling like vultures, William was said to be inconsolable. I should have reached out more, he reportedly told close friends. I thought we had time. I thought there'd be time. Meanwhile, in the United States, Meghan was being viewed through a completely different lens. American media rallied behind her. Morning talk shows, podcasts, and primetime specials hailed her bravery. Oprah Winfrey devoted a full hour to exploring the tragedy, interviewing grief experts, mental health professionals, and friends of the couple. She's doing what no one else dared to do, Oprah said. She's telling the truth, even when it hurts. The contrast between the UK's conflicted grief and America's embrace of Meghan couldn't have been starker. It was as if Harry's death had reignited the ideological war that began when the couple first stepped away from royal duties. And yet, beneath the noise, something deeper was brewing. Across Europe, Australia, Canada, and beyond, everyday people began sharing their own stories of estrangement, emotional abuse, and family pain. Harry was all of us, one viral TikTok user declared, the black sheep, the misunderstood one, the one who just wanted peace and was punished for it. Mental health organizations saw a spike in outreach and donations in Harry's name. Celebrities posted tributes. Athletes wore black armbands. Mental health advocates began pushing for governments to declare a national day of awareness in Harry's honor. At candlelight vigils held from Cape Town to Toronto, mourners held signs bearing Harry's own words, "Don't let them bury me near them." For many, it wasn't a rejection of the monarchy, it was a symbol of something bigger, a demand to be heard, a refusal to suffer in silence. As the days passed, the outrage didn't fade, it deepened. Petitions began circulating, calling for a formal investigation into the royal family's treatment of Harry. Others demanded that Charles and William publicly acknowledge the role the institution may have played in Harry's suffering. Still others took aim at the media. For years, Harry had spoken about the cruelty of the tabloids, how they dehumanized him and his wife. Now, with his death ruled as stemming from stress-induced cardiomyopathy, those attacks weren't just cruel, they were lethal. Some media outlets issued quiet apologies. Others doubled down. But for those grieving, one thing was clear. Harry didn't just die. He was pushed. Slowly. Consistently. And now, someone had to be held accountable. Meghan, amid the whirlwind, remained largely out of public view following her televised statement. But sources close to her say she is overwhelmed but determined. She has reportedly told friends, "I'm not fighting them. I'm protecting him." Meanwhile, the palace prepares for the most scrutinized royal funeral in modern history. But no matter where Harry is laid to rest, the world already knows where he stood. In life, Harry walked away from the crown to find peace. In death, he made sure they would never control him again. And the people, from every corner of the world, seemed to understand him now more than ever. Prince William had always been the strong one, the steady hand, the future king who, even in the wake of tragedy, carried himself with quiet composure. But as the news of his brother's final words reverberated across the globe, that composure cracked. For the first time in decades, William, the man groomed from birth to never falter, was seen as deeply, painfully human. Behind palace walls, aides described scenes of anguish unlike anything they had witnessed before. William, normally reserved and measured, reportedly slammed his fist against a mahogany table when Meghan's interview aired in full. Why would he say that? He demanded, his voice hoarse from hours of shouting and tears. Why would Harry do this to us? He was still my brother. No matter what happened, he was still my brother. It was a moment that seemed almost unthinkable to those who had watched the brothers grow up together, two princes bound by the same tragedy. William's grief wasn't just for Harry's death, it was for years of silence, for words left unsaid, and for a bond he once thought unbreakable. Those closest to William say that guilt has consumed him since Meghan revealed Harry's dying wish. He keeps asking himself the same question, a senior aide confided. Did I push him too far? Did I fail him as a brother? It wasn't always this way. As children, William and Harry were inseparable. They leaned on each other after losing their mother in a horrifying car crash, shielding one another from the media circus that followed. William, the elder, often acted as protector, while Harry brought light and laughter to the darkest days. But as they grew older, their paths diverged. William accepted the crown's weight with a quiet stoicism, molding himself into the perfect heir. Harry, in contrast, rebelled against the rigid constraints of royal life, seeking purpose beyond tradition. Their differences, once complementary, became chasms neither could cross. And when Meghan entered Harry's world, everything changed. To William, she was an unknown variable, a wild card who might threaten the fragile equilibrium of the monarchy. He cautioned Harry to move slowly, to think carefully. But Harry, headstrong and deeply in love, bristled at his brother's warnings. That conversation, often referred to by royal insiders as the talk that broke them, was the first in a series of heated exchanges that turned brother against brother. William believed he was offering wise counsel. Harry felt he was being patronized, controlled, and dismal. In the years that followed, their communication grew sporadic and strained. Even when they appeared together in public, at events honoring their mother or royal engagements for mental health charities, their body language betrayed the growing rift. They stood apart, spoke little, their interactions awkward and brief. Now, in the wake of Harry's death, those lost years weigh heavily on William's conscience. In private, he has reportedly admitted to friends, "We wasted so much time. I thought there'd be time to fix things." On the night of Harry's passing, William was said to have locked himself in his study at Kensington Palace for hours. Palace staff heard muffled sobs through the thick oak door. When he emerged, his face was pale, his eyes hollow. "It feels like he's haunting me already," he whispered to a trusted advisor. What haunts William most are the words he never said, the apologies he never made, the olive branches he never extended. He thinks about their last phone call all the time, the advisor revealed. It was short, stilted. William tried to be kind, but he didn't say what Harry needed to hear. He didn't say, "I love you." And then there is Meghan's revelation. Harry's plea not to be buried near the family has cut William to the bone. To him, it feels like a final rejection, not just of the monarchy, but of their bond as brothers. "We shared a mother," William reportedly said in a tearful conversation with Kate. "We shared a life. How could he think I wouldn't want him near me, even in death?" Kate, herself shaken, has been William's anchor in these turbulent days. She has encouraged him to express his grief openly. even if it means crying in front of the children or staff. Harry would want you to let it out, she told him gently. But the weight of royal expectation is hard to shake. William has always been taught that emotion is a private matter, something to be contained and controlled. Yet now, as he faces the possibility of laying his brother to rest far from the family, that control is slipping. During one particularly emotional meeting with aides, William reportedly broke down completely. I should have fought harder for him, he admitted. I should have made him believe he wasn't alone. The guilt is compounded by public scrutiny. Across social media, people are asking hard questions about the monarchy's role in Harry's suffering. Protesters outside the palace hold signs accusing the royal family of indifference, even cruelty. And while William has not spoken publicly about the accusations, he is painfully aware of them. He feels like the world is blaming him, said a palace insider. And in some ways, he's blaming himself too. Charles, meanwhile, is trying to hold the family together, but the strain is showing. Father and son have reportedly clashed behind closed doors over how to handle Harry's burial. Charles insists on a traditional royal interment at Windsor, while William has argued that they must honor Harry's wishes, even if it means breaking centuries of protocol. Harry didn't want this life, William reportedly said during one heated discussion. And now, he doesn't want this death either. Maybe we owe him that much. It's a rare moment of empathy from the future king, but also one laced with sorrow. For William, every decision about Harry's funeral is fraught with regret. Each choice feels like another opportunity to fail his brother or to finally do right by him. As the funeral approaches, the pressure on William is immense. He must balance duty with grief, tradition with compassion, and personal guilt with public expectation. For a man who has spent his entire life preparing to be king, this is a test unlike any other. And in the quiet moments, when the cameras are off and the palace corridors are empty, William is said to retreat to a private room filled with family photos. There, he lingers on one picture in particular, two boys, no older than 10, running barefoot through Balmoral's gardens. In it, Harry is grinning wildly, his red hair catching the sun, while William follows close behind, laughing. He keeps that photo on his desk, a staff member shared. He looks at it for hours. And sometimes, he whispers to himself, I'm sorry, little brother. I'm so sorry. For Prince William, Harry's death is not just a personal tragedy. It's a reckoning. A mirror reflecting every choice, every word, and every silence that built the wall between them. And as he prepares to say goodbye, one thought refuses to leave his mind. If love could have saved Harry, would he still be here? The term broken heart syndrome sounds poetic, almost romantic, like something pulled from the pages of a tragic novel. But for Prince Harry, it was no metaphor. It was a devastating medical reality that claimed his life, leaving the world grappling with a diagnosis few truly understand. Stress-induced cardiomyopathy, the medical name for broken heart syndrome, is rare but real. First identified by Japanese scientists in the 1990s, the condition occurs when intense emotional or physical stress floods the body with a surge of stress hormones like adrenaline. This sudden rush can stun the heart, weakening its muscles and altering its ability to pump blood effectively. The result can mimic a heart attack, chest pain, shortness of breath, and, in the most severe cases, sudden death. Doctors who treated Harry in his final months have confirmed that his heart was fragile, not because of blocked arteries or physical disease, but because of prolonged emotional trauma. Each moment of despair, each public rejection, and each humiliating tabloid headline had taken its toll, like waves pounding relentlessly on a cliff until it finally collapses. Harry's condition was a textbook case, said Dr. Marion Klein, a cardiologist consulted by the Sussexes in California. He suffered repeated emotional shocks over a long period, and his heart simply couldn't bear it anymore. In layman's terms, he died of grief. To understand how such a thing is possible, it's important to explore the science behind it. When humans experience stress, the body's fight-or-flight response kicks in, releasing cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones, in small doses, are essential for survival. But when stress is prolonged and unrelenting, they become toxic, damaging tissues and organs, including the heart. In broken heart syndrome, the surge of stress hormones temporarily stuns the left ventricle, the heart's main pumping chamber. On imaging scans, doctors often see the heart ballooning out in an unusual shape, narrow at the base and wide at the top. This peculiar appearance earned the condition its original Japanese name. Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, after a type of octopus trap resembling the ballooned heart. For most patients, the condition is reversible if treated promptly. But in Harry's case, the repeated emotional battering prevented his heart from recovering. Meghan, in her tearful interview, recalled moments that now make horrifying sense. Sometimes he would clutch his chest, and I'd ask if he was okay, she said. He'd smile and say, "It's just the stress. I'll be fine." But he wasn't fine. His heart was breaking, and I didn't even realize how literal that was. Experts agree that Harry's lifestyle in recent years likely compounded the issue. Though he moved to California seeking peace, he remained under intense media scrutiny. Legal battles with British tabloids dragged on. Family estrangement lingered unresolved. Even joyful events like the births of Archie and Lilibet were clouded by public criticism and private pain. Each phone call with his father that ended abruptly. Each holiday spent apart from William. Each story accusing Meghan of being manipulative or him of being weak. They were, in the words of Dr. Klein, small heart attacks of the soul. Other cases of broken heart syndrome provide haunting parallels. In 2016, a British woman lost her husband to cancer and died herself of cardiomyopathy just weeks later. In Japan, survivors of earthquakes and tsunamis often suffer surges in the condition, their hearts overwhelmed by fear and loss. Harry's situation was different but equally lethal, a steady drumbeat of emotional blows that culminated in his heart's failure. Dr. Alan Whitmore, a London-based cardiologist, explained it succinctly. Imagine being punched in the chest every single day. The heart can take only so much before it gives out. Harry's case is unique not only because of his high-profile status but because of what it represents, a stark reminder that emotional pain can be as fatal as physical injury. Psychologists have also weighed in, pointing to the role of childhood trauma. Losing Diana at age 12 left Harry with wounds he carried into adulthood. He never fully processed that grief, said Dr. Fiona Clark, a therapist specializing in bereavement. Combine that with the isolation he felt from his family and the relentless media persecution, and it's no wonder his heart reached its breaking point. The revelation of Harry's diagnosis has sparked an international conversation about mental health. Advocacy groups have seized the moment to highlight the importance of addressing emotional well-being as a matter of life and death. This isn't just about Harry, said one spokesperson from a mental health charity. It's about all of us. How many people are walking around with broken hearts because they've been abandoned, rejected, or silenced? Even within the palace, whispers suggest that some senior royals are quietly consulting medical experts to understand what went wrong. Could they have intervened? Could family reconciliation have eased Harry's suffering? The answers are as complex as the condition itself. Some say yes, pointing out that social support has been shown to improve outcomes in cardiomyopathy patients. Others argue that Harry's pain was too deep-rooted, too entangled with the very identity he was born into. And now, with Harry gone, the scientific explanation offers little comfort to those left behind. Knowing it was medical doesn't make it hurt any less, Meghan admitted in her interview. It doesn't change the fact that his heart broke because of how he was treated. In the end, broken heart syndrome may be rare, but Harry's story has given it a face, a young, vibrant man who seemed to have it all but carried invisible scars too heavy to bear. As his body lies in Montecito, far from the royal estates that shaped and tormented him, one truth has become impossible to ignore: a broken heart can kill. And Harry's didn't just break for himself. It broke for a lifetime spent trying to love and be loved by a family that, in the end, he felt never truly understood him. The question of where Prince Harry will be laid to rest has ignited a firestorm unlike any the royal family has faced in living memory. To the outside world, it may seem like a simple matter of geography, a decision about burial grounds and headstones. But for those within the House of Windsor, it has become a battle for legacy, identity, and control. Tradition dictates that members of the royal family are buried in sacred sites steeped in centuries of history. Windsor Castle, with its grand St. George's Chapel, holds the remains of kings and queens, dukes and duchesses, and countless heirs who never lived to wear the crown. For the Windsors, burial is not just about honoring the dead, it's about reinforcing the family's permanence, a symbol that even in death, they remain united. But Harry's final wish threatens to tear that symbolism apart. "Don't let them bury me near them," he told Meghan in his final hours. It was a sentence loaded with heartbreak and defiance. And now, in the days following his death, it has left Buckingham Palace scrambling to navigate uncharted territory. King Charles, already weighed down by grief and public criticism, is said to be adamant that his son should be returned to Britain and interred at Windsor. He is a prince of this realm, Charles reportedly told aides during a tense meeting. He belongs here, with his family. For Charles, this is not just about protocol. It's about redemption. Insiders say the king sees Harry's burial as his last chance to bring his wayward son back into the fold, if not in life then in death. The world thinks we pushed him away, Charles allegedly confided to a close advisor. If we let him stay in California, they'll believe it's true. But Meghan stands firm. Her voice, though quiet, carries the unflinching conviction of someone protecting a man she loved to the very end. This isn't about tradition, she told palace officials in a private call. This is about Harry. He wanted peace, and he never found it there. Why should he spend eternity in a place that broke his spirit? The clash has sparked what some are calling the fiercest family battle since the abdication crisis of 1936. Behind the gilded doors of Windsor and Clarence House, tempers are flaring. Charles reportedly believes Meghan's refusal is a deliberate attempt to keep Harry's memory separate from the monarchy. William, on the other hand, is torn. He understands Harry's pain more than he wants to admit, a royal insider revealed. Part of him thinks they should honor Harry's wishes, even if it means breaking tradition. But another part of him feels like this is yet another wedge being driven between the brothers. Kate Middleton, trying to steady her husband in this turbulent moment, has quietly urged compassion. Perhaps we should let him rest where he wanted, she reportedly told William during a late-night conversation. If we force him back, it will only deepen the world's anger. And indeed, the public outrage has been impossible to ignore. Vigils have continued outside Buckingham Palace and Montecito alike. Protesters in London have accused the monarchy of trying to erase Harry's pain and death, just as they allegedly ignored it in life. Social media campaigns under the hashtag #LetHarryRest have garnered millions of signatures in support of Meghan's decision to bury Harry in California. Yet others, particularly traditionalists and monarchists, argue that Harry must return home. He's a prince of the blood, declared one conservative commentator. He may have left the family in life, but his duty in death is to the crown and country that gave him everything. That sentiment has been echoed by some palace aides, who view Meghan's insistence as an act of rebellion rather than love. This is about control, one anonymous source claimed. She wants to keep Harry for herself, even in death. But to Meghan, this is not about ownership. It's about honoring a man whose life was spent battling forces far bigger than himself. In private, Meghan has reportedly made arrangements for Harry's burial in a secluded grove near their Montecito estate. It's a place where Harry often found solace during his final months, walking barefoot through the trees and listening to the ocean beyond. He called it his sanctuary, Meghan told a friend. He said it was the only place he felt free. The site, surrounded by wildflowers and shaded by towering oaks, offers a striking contrast to the stone-cold grandeur of Windsor. To Meghan, it feels right. To the palace, it feels like exile. The debate has even drawn in clergy from both sides of the Atlantic. The Archbishop of Canterbury, traditionally responsible for royal funerals, is said to have urged reconciliation. Death should bring families together, not drive them further apart, he reportedly told Charles and Meghan in a conference call. But the Archbishop of Los Angeles, with whom Meghan has consulted, offered a different perspective. We must honor the wishes of the departed, he said. If Prince Harry wanted rest away from the burdens of his lineage, it is a sacred duty to grant it. Royal historians have pointed out that this is not the first time a Windsor has rejected tradition in death. Edward VIII, who abdicated the throne for Wallis Simpson, was buried in the royal burial ground at Frogmore but lived in exile until his final breath. Harry's situation, however, feels even more loaded because it speaks not just to a personal choice, but to a broader rejection of the institution itself. As the clock ticks down to Harry's funeral, the world waits to see who will prevail. The institution that shaped him, or the woman who loved him. For now, his body remains in Montecito, guarded and untouched. Meghan visits it daily, often sitting for hours in quiet contemplation. Palace emissaries continue to call, urging her to reconsider. But Meghan's response has been unwavering. He asked me to protect him. Even now, I won't let him down. The burial debate has exposed the raw nerves of a family teetering between tradition and transformation. And as the world watches, one thing is certain: wherever Harry is laid to rest, his final wish has already changed the royal family forever. The final days of Prince Harry's life unfolded like a slow, tragic unraveling. Those closest to him recall a man drifting between moments of quiet reflection and waves of pain so deep they seemed to drown him from the inside out. The world had no idea that the prince who once strode confidently before flashing cameras was now pacing the quiet halls of his Montecito home, clutching his chest and whispering fears he had never shared publicly. It began one Monday morning, 7 days before his death. Meghan found Harry standing in the garden barefoot, staring at the horizon as the sun rose over the Santa Ynez Mountains. "It's so peaceful here," he murmured when she joined him. "But it's strange, even with all this peace around me, I can't find it inside." Meghan tried to reassure him, rubbing his arm and coaxing him inside for breakfast. But Harry barely touched his food. He seemed distracted, lost in thought. Later that day, he declined calls from old friends and ignored messages from his therapist. When Meghan asked if he wanted to join her and the children for a beach outing, he smiled faintly but shook his head. "You go. I'll just slow you down." On Tuesday, Harry spent hours in his study, leafing through photo albums filled with images from his childhood. Staff overheard him murmuring to himself as he traced a finger over a photograph of Diana holding him tightly at Balmoral. "She'd know what to say," he whispered. "She always knew how to make it better." That afternoon, Harry's longtime friend Nacho Figueres called to check in. The two spoke for nearly an hour. Harry laughed a few times, reminiscing about their polo matches and travels, but near the end of the call his tone shifted. "Do you think they'll remember me fondly?" Harry asked quietly. Nacho tried to brush off the question, but Harry pressed on. "Or will I just be the angry one who left?" On Wednesday, Harry finally agreed to a video call with William. It had been months since they last spoke. Meghan, hopeful, set up the call and left the room to give them privacy. But when she returned 30 minutes later, Harry sat staring blankly at the screen, tears streaming down his face. "We talked," he said flatly. "But it wasn't really talking. Just words. Like we're strangers now." Meghan wrapped her arms around him and kissed his temple. "You're not a stranger to me," she whispered. "You're everything." Harry rested his head on her shoulder but said nothing. By Thursday, Harry's physical symptoms had worsened. He complained of tightness in his chest and dizziness. Meghan insisted on calling the doctor, but Harry refused. "It's just stress," he said. "I'll be fine." But later that evening, he collapsed briefly while reaching for a glass of water. Meghan rushed to his side, terrified. Doctors arrived within the hour. After running tests, they confirmed what Meghan had feared. Harry's heart was dangerously weak. "His condition is precarious," one of them warned gently. "Any severe emotional stress could prove catastrophic." On Friday morning, Harry asked Meghan to join him on the porch overlooking their garden. Wrapped in a blanket, he held her hand tightly as they watched Archie and Lilibet chasing bubbles on the lawn. "Promise me you'll tell them I love them more than anything," Harry said suddenly. Meghan's throat tightened. "You'll tell them yourself," she replied. "You're not going anywhere." But Harry shook his head slightly. "I can feel it, Meg. Something's not right." Saturday was quiet. Too quiet. Harry barely spoke, except to ask Meghan to read him passages from his favorite books. At one point, he asked her to play a recording of Diana's favorite song. As the music filled the room, Harry closed his eyes and whispered, "Maybe I'll see her soon." That night, Meghan stayed awake by his side, watching his chest rise and fall, terrified of what might happen if she looked away even for a moment. Sunday, the day Harry's heart finally gave out, was bright and warm. Meghan tried to encourage him to eat, but he declined. Instead, he asked her to bring him outside to his favorite grove of oak trees. With her help, he settled onto a blanket, staring up at the sunlight filtering through the leaves. "Meg," he whispered hoarsely, "I don't want to go back there. Not even in death. Don't let them bury me near them." Tears filled Meghan's eyes. "I promise," she said, squeezing his hand. "I'll protect you. Always." Harry smiled faintly, his grip loosening. "Thank you for loving me." Those were his last words. Minutes later, his breathing grew shallow. Meghan screamed for help, but by the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. Harry, son, brother, husband, father, was gone. The timeline of those final days has since become the subject of intense public fascination and sorrow. Each moment, each word, each choice, dissected endlessly in the press and online. For some, it was proof of how fragile the human spirit can be. For others, it was a damning indictment of the forces, family, tradition, media that had worn him down to nothing. In life, Harry had fought to control his own narrative. In death, he left one final story that no one could spin, The story of a man who loved deeply, suffered silently, and made a last plea for peace. And now, as Meghan sits in the grove where Harry drew his final breath, one thought consumes her: how to keep her promise to the man who only ever wanted to be free.